You understand how liberals work? They create these terms that make it impossible to resist them. Anti-hunger advocates. And if you object to anything they say, like we're going to tax people and steal farm food to give to hungry people, and if you object to that and go, maybe that's not the best idea to handle hunger, you can't fight the anti-hunger advocate. You can't fight. You're pro-hunger. You are definitely pro-hunger. You notice how they use the same tactic with what? What's the, Paulo, what's the topic du jour today? Oh, you have to be anti-racist. So advocates now who follow this new white fragility stuff, they are anti-racist. Is there anyone pro-racist? Is there any respectable member of society you would have in your house or anywhere else that's pro-racism? Anyone? Of course, the answer is no. So you wonder why they create terminology like this. And they create terminology like this to avoid serious conversations. So in other words, if you don't teach a terror group's doctrine in school, like Black Lives Matter, which is a Marxist terror group. They've terrorized cities. They burned down cities. They practice Marxism openly. They've talked about it. If you dare object to them, then Black lives don't matter to you, which is absolutely insane. They do this all the time. This is how they are going to advance to the next level of censorship, by continuing to wipe you off social media platforms, Facebook and Twitter. Everything you say is going to be classified as hate speech. Therefore, if you dare fight them, you are pro-hate speech. You don't believe me? It made its way into the White House briefing room yesterday. Check out the briefing by Jen Psaki. She didn't circle back on this one. This one, she got right to the point. When they were asked about, hey, does President Biden support the continued banning by Twitter of President Trump off the platform? Listen to her answer. Check this out.
Does President Biden support the continuing ban of President Trump on their sites?
I think that's a decision made by Twitter. We've certainly spoken to, and he's spoken to, the need for social media platforms to continue to take steps to reduce hate speech. But we don't have more for you on it than that.
You see the trick? You see the trick she just did? Don't ever forget this. You have to be better debaters than them, because the facts are never on their side, which I'll prove in a second. That'll be technique number 2. Ask liberals to produce the facts. They can't do it. But trick number 1 they use all the time is, in order to avoid dealing with the nuances of any debate. Every debate has nuance. Ladies and gentlemen, nothing is black and white. Nothing. Nothing. Not debates about tax rates, not debates about government. Nothing is black and white. How much taxes? Where? Do we tax income? Do we tax capital gains? What about carried interest? What about property taxes? Everything has nuance. Everything has nuance. There's no black and white. Liberals want to make things black and white to avoid nuance. Why? Because they don't have evidence to back up any of their arguments. And once you get into the nuance, they start to lose. Like when you say things to them like, hey, well, hiking taxes traditionally has resulted in lower tax income to the government because people then avoid paying taxes and pay accountants to get out of paying the higher tax rates. They don't want to acknowledge that. So what do? They make it simple, and they make it things about hate speech. Therefore, if you fight them, and if you dare talk about the real complexities of banning a former president from a public forum such as Twitter, which has become a public forum, whether a de facto public forum, rather than getting into the nuances and the censorship dangers of doing that, they don't want to do it. So what does Jen Psaki do? She resorts to standard liberal trick number 1. Make it a black and white issue when it's all gray. Be the anti-hunger advocate. That way, anyone who fights you, and it's black and white, they're on the wrong side of this. They're hunger advocates. They want to advocate for hunger. You're an anti-racist if you're a leftist. Therefore, any questions about class, identity politics, the breakdown of race in society, any nuance, which is everywhere, it's not to be nuanced. It's not to be argued in its nuance. If you dare argue against liberals and their policy prescriptions, which enhance their power, you are then pro-racist because you're fighting them and they're anti-racist. It's going to be the same thing with hate speech. Anyone they disagree with will be thrown into the big hate speech cauldron and kicked to the curb and say, hey, you want to support getting Donald Trump back on Twitter? You're for hate speech, man. They do it all the time because they're dumb. They're dumb. They don't have the ability to think to second order effects. Let me show you this other video from the beginning of the show here. This is from the 5 yesterday. So one tactic with the left on number 1 is don't let them bottle you into black or white arguments. What that reporter, if they were really interested, should have said, listen, I'm not interested in your subjective definition of hate speech. I ask you a specific question about the role of a former president, Donald J. Trump, on a social media platform that's a de facto public space. Answer the question. But they don't want to do that. That's how you get around the anti-hunger, the anti-racist stuff, where anybody who fights them is pro-racism, therefore to be shunned, which is nonsense. It's none of that's actually true. Get them into the details. Really? So if I object to your anti-racism training because I think it's furthering the class and race divide in the country, I'm a racist. What about the fact that the policies I'm promoting, school choice, business development in inner cities, have actually benefited the minority community? How about we debate those? Stick to the point. Don't let them get off it. But also do this. Do what Greg Gutfeld did in this segment yesterday. He was having this debate with Donna Brazile on the 5, and Donna Brazile said something that is factually entirely inaccurate and made up, that Donald Trump advised people to drink bleach. What do? Whenever they do that, which is often, you ask them to produce the evidence. Watch the panic that ensues when Greg Gutfeld asks Donna to actually produce the evidence that happened. Check this out.
And by the way, if Joe Biden goes out there one day and asks people to drink bleach as a way of fighting a pandemic, God knows.
That never happened, Donna.
Yes,
you got fed a lie there.
That
never happened, Donna. You got fed a lie. Never happened.
Maybe
if you're going to say that on the show, you got to have the clip. Never happened.
Well, get the clip.
All right.
Because of this.
Good luck. Get the clip, Donna. Good
whatever
luck.
you want to call
I'll buy you a steak dinner if you find that clip.
No, I mean, look.
It never happened.
I don't want no dinner
I'm just
from you, baby.
I'm just trying to be honest.
Oh, yes, he did.
If you're going to bring up something that's not true, we got to point it out. That's what we do.
Hey, Greg, don't have a heart attack, baby, because I'm not there to give you mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. So just chill.
Next.
Oh.
Where's the evidence? The greatest question ever. Where's the evidence? Really? Donald Trump told people to drink bleach? Can you produce that clip? The bet always works too. Remember when I still, by the way, no one has claimed my $100,000 bounty. I put out $100,000 bounty for any journalist that can prove that Westwood One story in the Washington Post that I was told by Westwood One and Cumulus to stop talking about the election. I put out $100,000 bounty to any journalist that could produce that actual electronic copy of the email because the story's totally made up and fabricated. You know, not one person has cashed in. Why wouldn't you take the $100K? That's a lot of money. 6 figures. $100K, no questions asked. I'd write you the check myself. Why has no one done it? Because I asked them to produce the evidence, Paul Farhi and the Washington Post, that their story was true, and no one could. Isn't that weird? Where are the corrections, by the way? No, nowhere. No, nowhere. Of course they're nowhere. Leftists don't actually correct themselves after they lie to you. God forbid they had any morals and dignity. I've never got an apology from Paul Farhi of the Washington Post for his fake story. Now, whether Donna apologized to Greg in the audience, I'm not sure, but that was in fact false. Donna can never produce the clip because there is no clip of Donald Trump telling people to drink bleach. It's made up. And if you believe it, I'm really sorry. I know some people object to my use of harsh terminology, but in this case, it's true. If you believe that, you're an imbecile because you could easily watch the clip, which I would produce today, but I don't want to waste your time because it's not there. So I'm not going to play you a clip of something that doesn't exist. You could easily go and look at the clip yourself of Donald Trump when he was giving a coronavirus briefing, and you will see rather easily, if you have an IQ in the 85 range or above, that Donald Trump never, in fact, said to drink bleach. You just made it up. So if you believe it, then you're really, really stupid. Ask for the evidence. And don't ever let them get off track with their simple black or white arguments. No pun intended, with their play on identity politics. Their simple use of anti-race. We're anti-racist activists. You are? We're all anti-racist activists. All of us. No one's pro-racist. So why you use that terminology? Oh, because you want to stigmatize anyone who objects to your liberal power grab. Oh, no. Yeah. Yeah, now we get it. Hate speech. You don't want to talk about Donald Trump, so it's all about hate speech. Hate speech. And for anyone who objects to Donald Trump's characterization by Twitter, it's all, you're definitely pro-hate speech. These are sick people.